So, holy shit. I actually had an entirely different MMO video planned for this week, but everything said no. Because you see, Ashes decided to go completely nuclear in one of the most dramatic ways possible. Mass resignations, legal drama, and Discord notifications. It feels weird trying to be even like remotely funny about this because this is awful, but we gotta have like some levity in even like dark and scary times, right? I am admittedly not as tapped into the Ashes community, at least not as much as a lot of other creators. I am not very PvP centric, not anymore. And I have found a lot of the community to be, let's say, standoffish at times. So this is more of an outsider's take. But if you're looking for an insider's take, as always, I recommend Nice Gaming, and I'll link them down below. But holy fuck, man, that's... Let's start with a statement from Sharif posted to the Discord, which was thankfully saved for posterity by outlets like Massively OP because it's already been stripped out of their Discord. Quote, I can make a limited statement in my personal capacity and not on behalf of the company regarding the situation. Control of the company shifted away from me and the board began directing actions that I could not ethically agree with or carry out. As a result, I chose to resign in protest rather than lend my name or authority to decisions I could not ethically support. Following my resignation, much of the senior leadership team resigned. Following those departures, the board made the decision to issue WARN Act notices and proceed with a mass layoff. I cannot responsibly speak to further details at this time due to ongoing legal and governance matters. What I can say is that the developers and staff acted in good faith and deserved better than the uncertainty they are now facing. I am incredibly dismayed by this situation. Sharif. This followed confirmed layoffs earlier this week and now seemingly mass resignations all down the line. If you're unfamiliar, WARN Act notices are 60-day notices of mass layoffs. So from the sound of things, everything with Ashes was about to get really, really bad, and this is just accelerating that. At least that's how I'm reading it. But I want to pause here because there's going to be a lot of people just circling around that are very eager to just say, how much of this game, like I knew this was a scam. I've been waiting for years to just tell you how big of a scam this was. And to that I say, shut the fuck up. Right now is not the time. You can try later, fine, whatever. People just lost their jobs. People just lost their livelihoods. Do you really think that the person who made the drum animation for the Bard was scamming you? Do you really think that the person doing line after line of code was scamming you? Those people are not scamming you. These are people who just lost their jobs. They just lost their livelihood. These people are people that are hurting now. So I would implore you to just sit back and have some empathy. If you want to point fingers at the higher ups, if you want to point fingers at the board members, if you want to point fingers at Steven, if you want to point fingers at those decision makers, you know, the people that actually didn't get laid off, those people, if you want to say they scammed, if you want to say they did, that I don't care. What I'm talking about is the actual people that were putting in the work to make the video game that you were playing. That's who I'm talking about. That's who I'm saying are the people that are hurting right now and deserve the actual empathy. The people that are just like us. Have some empathy for these people that were working on this game, that were putting years of their lives that they could have been putting elsewhere on jobs that pay much better, that are much less competitive, and have much, much more security than an industry that has been suffering through so many layoffs year over year and is full of uncertainty and is not very well unionized. So please, have some empathy for the human beings that are just like you and me that just lost their jobs. Reportedly, but like unconfirmed numbers, but reportedly close to 200 or 250 of them. They worked on a game They created art. They did coding. They did UI elements. They worked on a game. They were developers. And it's not like indie games are the only place that does shit like this. Ubisoft just killed off multiple games that had been under development for multiple years, killing off the careers of multiple developers that had worked on those games, people that had planned their lives around them. Before that, Microsoft did the same thing to other games. Before that, we just saw that happen to Project Blackbird, where people from ZeniMax resigned in protest because they were so pissed off that there was no reason for them to kill off that project. So just keep this in mind, that stuff like this is not cool. It's not fun. It's not a time to sit back and be like, hey, I won. I won the argument online, okay? This shit sucks. It's just a shitty thing that happened. But looking at the scale of the carnage here, it feels unreal. It's a bit like a top to bottom clear out. Overnight, Ash's future somehow became bleaker than New World's, and New World already had a confirmed closure date in 2027. Ashes, for all we know, could be closed within months, it could be closed within weeks, it could be closed within days. It's hard to say. In all my time covering MMOs, I've never seen anything quite like this, with one exception. And that exception is Crowfall. Crowfall launched into essentially a half-baked state. It was sold about 6 months later, and then about a year after that, the new owners of the game announced it would be closing 15 days later after the announcement. And it would be closing to go into development. That was in 2022. There's still no Crowfall. This feels like a Crowfall moment for Ashes of Creation. Coincidentally, they both happen to be PvP MMOs. One thing I am almost certain of with all of this is that this is going to negatively impact an already reeling genre and industry. Kickstarter MMOs were already kind of dead. That is, making new ones, new Kickstarter MMOs. The ones that are still going, they're still gonna keep going as long as they can. Somewhere we realized the concept of funding an MMO through crowdfunding was kind of silly. The game simply cost too much to do so, and the best bet with a Kickstarter is essentially what Stars Reach did recently. A proof of concept, not to make the game, not to fund the game, but to show outside investors that can bring in more money that it's worth it. And funnily enough, that's actually kind of what Ashes did. And it still doesn't seem like it worked. Because while Ashes had enormous amounts of money compared to a lot of these other smaller games, it still doesn't seem like it was enough. But in an industry that has repeatedly been beaten year after year by mass layoffs, this is just yet another one that's going to further depress the industry. And in a genre that is reeling after a very, very tough year of 2025 that saw so many cancellations, this is a brutal way to start 2026. And I want to end this with some kind of silver lining. I want to end it with something to give some kind of hope, some kind of positivity, because that's kind of what I try and do is bring forth some kind of positivity here. And I don't have any. I really don't. Not for this genre, not at this moment. I'm sure I will in the future, but not right now, because this just sucks. And right now, all I'm thinking in this moment is about those people that have spent 3, 4, 5 years working on this game, and they're not going to get to see the end of it. And I feel really bad for them. My name is Edward Flynn. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you have a wonderful day, and I will see you all soon. Bye, everybody.